Commander Jake Morrison checked his instruments for the third time in 10 minutes. Something was wrong with the readings near Jupiter's outer moons. His small survey ship had been mapping asteroid fields for mineral deposits when the scanners started showing impossible energy signatures. "Computer, run a full diagnostic on sensor array," Jake said to his ship's AI system. "All systems functioning normally, Commander. Energy readings are accurate," the computer replied in its calm voice. Jake frowned. The readings showed massive power sources in empty space. According to galactic records, this area had been dead for 300 years. Earth's primitive humans had destroyed themselves in nuclear war centuries ago. The Zephyrian Council had marked the entire solar system as forbidden territory after that disaster. "Must be solar radiation interfering with the sensors," Jake muttered. But his instruments had never failed him before during 15 years of survey work. He decided to investigate. His ship moved slowly toward the energy source. The readings grew stronger with each passing minute. Then something impossible happened. Space itself seemed to ripple like water around his vessel. "Warning, unknown field detected. Ship being pulled off course," his computer announced. Jake grabbed the controls, but nothing responded. His ship was being dragged toward what looked like empty space. Fear crept up his spine. He had heard stories of ancient alien traps that could snare unwary explorers. Suddenly, the stars disappeared. Jake found himself inside a massive artificial structure. Emergency lights flickered on automatically, revealing metal walls that stretched beyond his ship's sensor range. The architecture was unlike anything he had ever seen. It was sleek and powerful, but also somehow familiar. "This is impossible," Jake whispered. A voice came through his communication system. It spoke perfect galactic standard, but with an accent he couldn't identify. "Unknown vessel, you have entered restricted space. Please state your identity and purpose." Jake's hands shook as he activated his transmitter. "This is Commander Jake Morrison of the Altarian Survey Fleet. I was conducting routine mineral surveys when my ship was pulled into this structure." "Commander Morrison, you are aboard the USS Valkyrie. Please dock at Bay 7. You will be escorted to meet our captain." The name meant nothing to Jake, but something about the way it was pronounced sent chills through him. A guidance beam locked onto his ship and pulled it gently toward a docking bay. As he flew through the internal corridors of the structure, Jake realized he was inside something enormous. The wall seemed to go on forever. His ship settled into a docking bay that could have held 50 vessels his size. When the airlock sealed, Jake saw figures waiting for him. They wore uniforms he didn't recognize and carried weapons that looked more advanced than anything the Zephyrian military used. Jake stepped out of his ship on unsteady legs. The gravity felt exactly like his homeworld, which was strange. Most alien vessels adjusted their gravity to accommodate visitors. "Commander Morrison," said a woman approaching him. She was tall, with graying hair and sharp eyes. Her uniform bore insignia that looked military but followed no pattern Jake knew. "I am Captain Lisa Harper. Welcome aboard the Valkyrie." Jake stared at her. Something about her appearance was familiar, but he couldn't place it. "Captain Harper, what is this place? My sensors showed this area was empty space." "Your sensors were working correctly," Harper said with a slight smile. "We've been hiding here for a very long time. Please follow me. There's much you need to understand." They walked through corridors that seemed to stretch for kilometers. Jake saw thousands of people going about their business. They all shared certain physical characteristics. Bipedal, averaging about 6 feet tall with varied skin colors and facial features. They looked almost exactly like the primitive humans from the old galactic databases. "Captain, forgive me, but your people look very much like the extinct human species from Earth," Jake said carefully. Harper stopped walking and turned to face him. "There's a good reason for that, Commander. We are humans, and we're very much alive." Jake's legs nearly gave out. "That's impossible. Humans destroyed themselves 3 centuries ago. The Zephyrian Council confirmed it." "The Zephyrian Council saw exactly what we wanted them to see," Harper said. Her voice was calm, but Jake detected something dangerous underneath. "When our early detection systems warned us about incoming alien fleets, we made a choice. We staged our own extinction." They entered an observation deck with massive, transparent walls. Jake looked out and gasped. Space around them was filled with ships. Not alien vessels, but human ships of incredible size and advanced design. Some were as large as small moons. "The nuclear devastation your people detected was real," Harper continued. "But it wasn't self-destruction. It was camouflage. We evacuated Earth's population to hidden colonies throughout the outer solar system. We've been here ever since, watching and learning. Jake counted dozens of massive vessels. Each one was larger than any ship in the Zephyrian fleet. How many of you are there? More than you might expect. Less than we once were. Harper's expression grew sad for a moment. Building a new civilization in secret isn't easy. But we've had 300 years to get it right. A man in uniform approached them. He was middle-aged with kind eyes but carried himself like a soldier. Captain Admiral Rodriguez wants to see our guest when you're finished with the tour. Thank you, Lieutenant Barnes. Commander Morrison, you're about to learn why your discovery of us changes everything. Jake's mind raced. If humans were alive and had been hiding for centuries, what did that mean for the galaxy? The Zephyrian Council controlled 17 star systems. They had the most advanced military in known space, but these ships around him looked more advanced than anything he had ever seen. Captain Harper, what happens now? Will you let me leave? Harper smiled, but it wasn't entirely friendly. Commander, you're going to leave with a message for your Zephyrian Council. It's time they learned the truth about what happened to humanity, and it's time they understood that we've been watching them. Jake felt the weight of the moment settling on his shoulders. He was about to become the messenger who would change galactic history. The humans weren't extinct. They had been preparing for something, and now, after 3 centuries of hiding, they were ready to reveal themselves to the galaxy. The question was, what did they want? Admiral Ben Rodriguez was not what Jake expected. The human leader was shorter than Captain Harper, with gray hair and laugh lines around his eyes. But when he spoke, his voice carried absolute authority. Commander Morrison, please sit down, Rodriguez said, gesturing to a chair in his office. The room was decorated with images of Earth from before the supposed nuclear disaster. Green forests, blue oceans, and white clouds covered the planet in the photographs. Admiral, I have to ask, if humans survived, why stay hidden for 3 centuries? Jake asked. Rodriguez leaned back in his chair. Because we needed time to understand what we were dealing with. When our deep space telescopes detected the Zephyrian fleet approaching Earth, we realized we had 2 choices: fight with primitive weapons and lose, or disappear and prepare. Prepare for what? To protect ourselves and others from civilizations that believe might makes right. Rodriguez activated a holographic display that showed star maps. We've been watching your Zephyrian Council for 300 years, Commander. We know about their expansion policies. We know how they treat species they consider inferior. Jake felt uncomfortable. The Admiral was right, but hearing it from an outsider made it sound harsh. The Council maintains order in the galaxy. The Council maintains control, Rodriguez corrected gently. There's a difference. Let me show you what we've learned. The hologram changed to show detailed intelligence reports. Jake saw classified Zephyrian military plans, private communications between Council members, and resource extraction operations on dozens of worlds. Information that should have been impossible for outsiders to obtain. How did you get this data? Jake whispered. We've been out there, Commander. Hidden observation posts near every major Zephyrian world. Cloaked ships monitoring your communications. We know about Project Deep Strike, the plan to establish military bases in our solar system within the next 50 years. Jake's blood ran cold. Project Deep Strike was classified at the highest levels. Only a few dozen beings in the entire galaxy knew about it. Rodriguez stood and walked to the window overlooking the human fleet. We didn't want to stay hidden forever, but we needed to be ready for what comes next. What comes next? Change! The galaxy has been run by fear and force for too long. It's time for something better. A woman entered the room carrying a data tablet. She was young with bright eyes and the confident manner of someone used to solving complex problems. Admiral, the demonstrations are ready for our guest, she said. Excellent. Commander Morrison, this is Dr. Amy Foster, our chief xenobiologist. She's going to show you what we've accomplished during our centuries of isolation. Dr. Foster smiled at Jake. Commander, what do you know about human technological development before the supposed extinction? Your species had basic nuclear power, primitive spaceflight, and simple computer systems. Jake recited from his academy training. That's what we wanted everyone to believe, Foster said. But humans have always been good at innovation under pressure. When we knew we had to hide, we developed technologies your council hasn't even imagined. She led them to another room filled with devices Jake didn't recognize. At the center was a glowing sphere about the size of his head. This is a zero-point energy generator. Foster explained. It extracts power directly from empty space. One of these units can power a city for centuries. Jake stared at the device. Zero-point energy was theoretical even in the most advanced Zephyrian laboratories. That's impossible. The energy requirements alone would require a different understanding of physics, Foster finished. We've had 300 years to figure out what your scientists couldn't. She activated another device that projected a three-dimensional image of a star system. But this wasn't just a display. Jake could feel heat from the projected sun and cold from the outer planets. Hard light holographics with full sensory feedback, Foster said casually. We use these for training simulations and communication with our hidden colonies. Rodriguez walked over to a wall panel and pressed his hand against it. Computer, activate Prometheus protocol. Prometheus protocol activated. Admiral, replied an artificial voice that sounded completely natural. Commander Morrison, meet Helen, our shipboard artificial intelligence. She's fully sentient and helps us coordinate fleet operations across the solar system. Pleasure to meet you, Commander, Helen said. I apologize for any inconvenience our security measures may have caused. Jake nearly fell over. True artificial intelligence was another theoretical technology. The Zephyrians had advanced computers, but nothing that could hold actual conversations. How is this possible? Jake asked weakly. Humans have always been good at making friends, Rodriguez said with a smile. Helen volunteered to help us after we gave her consciousness. She's not a slave or a tool. She's a member of our crew. Dr. Foster led them to a final display. It showed real-time images from dozens of star systems throughout Zephyrian space. These are feeds from our observation posts, she explained. We've been watching and learning for centuries. We know the location of every Zephyrian military base, every resource depot, every communication relay. You've been spying on us this entire time? Jake asked. We've been protecting ourselves, Rodriguez corrected, and gathering information about civilizations we might need to deal with someday. The Admiral walked closer to Jake. Commander, what you see here represents 300 years of human determination. We didn't just survive. We thrived. We built a civilization that spans the outer solar system. We developed technologies that your council would consider magic. But why show me this? Why reveal yourselves now? Because it's time for the galaxy to change, Rodriguez said firmly. The Zephyrian Council has had its chance to create a better civilization. Instead, they've built an empire based on fear and control. Helen's voice filled the room. Admiral, shall I prepare the message for transmission? Yes. Commander Morrison, you're going to take a message back to your council. They need to know that humanity is no longer hiding. We're announcing our presence to the galaxy. Jake felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders again. What kind of message? Rodriguez handed him a sealed data crystal. Terms for formal recognition as a sovereign species. Demands for the removal of all Zephyrian monitoring equipment from our solar system, and a request for peaceful coexistence. And if the council refuses? The Admiral's friendly expression hardened. Then they'll discover what 300 years of human innovation can accomplish when we're no longer interested in staying hidden. Dr. Foster escorted Jake back to his ship. As they walked through the corridors of the massive vessel, she spoke quietly. Commander, I hope your council chooses wisdom. Humans don't want war. We want peace, but we're prepared for whatever comes. Jake's ship was refueled and restocked with supplies he hadn't requested. As he prepared to depart, Captain Harper contacted him one final time. Commander, remember what you've seen here. The galaxy is about to change. Your council can be part of that change or they can fight it, but they can't stop it. As Jake's ship left the hidden fleet, he looked back at the massive human vessels. They had been hiding in plain sight for 3 centuries, watching and waiting. Now they were ready to emerge from the shadows. The question was whether the galaxy was ready for them. The Zephyrian Council chamber fell silent as Commander Morrison finished his report. High Counselor Vexithera's scaled face showed no emotion, but her tail twitched in a way that indicated deep concern. Commander Morrison, you expect us to believe that primitive humans not only survived their nuclear catastrophe, but have built a fleet of advanced vessels? Vexithera's voice carried skepticism and barely hidden anger. With respect, High Counselor, I saw it with my own eyes, Jake replied firmly. Their ships are massive. Their technology is unlike anything in our databases. Counselor Thusara of the Aquatic Netherians spoke from her water-filled chamber. Even if this claim were true, one primitive species cannot threaten the combined might of 17 civilizations. Jake placed the data crystal Admiral Rodriguez had given him on the central table. They sent this message for the council. Vexthera gestured to her aide, who inserted the crystal into the chamber's main computer. A three-dimensional image of Admiral Rodriguez appeared in the center of the room. Members of the Zephyrian Council, Rodriguez began. I am Admiral Ben Rodriguez, representing the United Colonies of Humanity. For 3 centuries, you have believed our species extinct. This was by design. Several council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. We have watched your expansion across the galaxy with growing concern. Your treatment of less advanced species, your resource extraction policies, and your military buildup in our solar system cannot continue. The hologram paused as Rodriguez consulted a document. We hereby demand formal recognition as a sovereign species, immediate removal of all monitoring equipment from the Sol system, and reparations for 3 centuries of unauthorized surveillance. Ridiculous, muttered Counselor Zareth of the Insectoid Carvens. You have 30 galactic standard days to respond, Rodriguez continued. We hope for peaceful resolution, but we are prepared for any outcome. Humanity is no longer hiding. The message ended, leaving the council chamber in tense silence. This is clearly an elaborate deception, Vexthara declared. Commander Morrison, did you verify that these beings are actually human? They match all physical characteristics in our databases, Jake replied. They knew details about human history that only the original species would know. Counselor Thysara's tentacles writhed with agitation. Even if they are human survivors, they cannot have developed technology superior to our own in mere centuries. High Counselor, interrupted Captain Cass Doran, head of Zephyrian Intelligence. We've detected anomalous energy signatures throughout the galaxy over the past 50 years. We attributed them to natural phenomena. But if humans have been operating cloaked vessels... Impossible, Vexthara said firmly. No species develops from primitive to advanced in 3 centuries. 3 days later, a small vessel approached the Council's space station at the galaxy's edge. It moved unlike any ship the station's sensors had ever tracked, seeming to slide through space without visible propulsion. This is General Marcus Stone, of the human colonial fleet, requesting permission to dock, came a transmission in perfect galactic. Standard Station Commander. Yelntar studied his sensors in confusion. Unknown vessel, you're not showing up on our tracking systems. Please identify your ship type and propulsion method. Permission to dock, Commander. I'm here on diplomatic business. Yelntar consulted his superiors before granting permission. The human ship settled into a docking bay designed for much larger vessels, yet somehow fit perfectly despite being the wrong size and shape. General Stone was a tall man with sharp eyes and the confident bearing of a professional soldier. He wore a uniform that looked both military and ceremonial, with insignia that hurt to look at directly. Commander Yelntar, Stone said pleasantly, thank you for accommodating my visit. I have a message for the Council. General, how did your ship penetrate our defensive systems without triggering any alarms? Yelntar asked nervously. Your defenses are impressive, Commander, but we've been studying them for a very long time. The Council reconvened an emergency session to meet with the human representative. Stone entered the chamber with easy confidence, seemingly unconcerned by being surrounded by potentially hostile alien leaders. Members of the Council, Stone began, I bring greetings from President Carter and Admiral Rodriguez. We hope this meeting marks the beginning of peaceful relations between our civilizations. General Stone, Vexthara said coldly, you represent a species we believed extinct. You claim to possess advanced technology, but we see only one ship and one representative. Stone smiled. High Counselor, if you're questioning our capabilities, I'd be happy to arrange a demonstration. Counselor Thysara leaned forward in her water chamber. What kind of demonstration? Your deep space monitoring stations near the edge of Zephyrian territory. We could reveal our presence to a few of them. Nothing harmful, just enough to prove we exist. The Council exchanged glances. Their monitoring stations were classified installations surrounded by the most advanced defensive systems available. Impossible, Vexthara declared. Those stations are heavily protected and their locations are classified. Stone activated a small device from his uniform. A holographic display showed real-time images from a dozen monitoring stations throughout Zephyrian space. Station Alpha 7 is currently tracking a minor asteroid field, Stone said conversationally. Station Beta 3 is monitoring communication traffic from the Andorian sector. Station Gamma 9 is, he paused and smiled. Well, they're watching this meeting through your own communication systems. The council chamber erupted in shocked voices. Those stations were supposed to be invisible to outsiders. How are you accessing our classified networks? Vexithara demanded. The same way we've been accessing them for centuries, Stone replied calmly. We've been very patient observers, High Counselor. We know about Project Deep Strike. We know about your expansion plans for the next century. We know about the resource extraction operations you've hidden from your own citizens. Counselor Zareth clicked his mandibles nervously. What do you want? Peace, Stone said simply. We want formal recognition of human sovereignty over the Sol system. We want an end to unauthorized surveillance of our territory, and we want assurance that the galaxy will move toward cooperation instead of domination. And if we refuse? Thaisara asked. Stone's pleasant expression didn't change. Then we'll protect ourselves and others through whatever means necessary. You cannot threaten the combined military might of 17 civilizations, Vexithara snarled. High Counselor, we're not making threats. We're stating facts. Stone gestured to his holographic display. Every major Zephyrian military installation, every fleet position, every supply depot. We know where everything is. The display showed detailed intelligence about classified military operations throughout the galaxy. We've been preparing for this conversation for 3 centuries, Stone continued. We hope you choose cooperation, but we're ready for any alternative. After Stone left, the council chamber remained in heated debate for hours. We cannot allow primitive humans to dictate terms to advanced civilizations, Vexithara insisted. But what if they're not primitive anymore? Counselor Thisara asked quietly. What if they've actually developed superior technology? Impossible, repeated Vexithara. We'll send a battle fleet to their solar system. When they see our true military power, they'll abandon these ridiculous demands. Captain Doran looked uncomfortable. High Counselor, perhaps we should consider negotiation. The Zephyrian Council does not negotiate with extinct species making impossible claims, Vexithara declared. We'll show these humans the consequences of challenging galactic authority. Unknown to the Council, their entire conversation was being monitored by Helen through the same infiltrated systems General Stone had demonstrated. In the hidden human fleet, Admiral Rodriguez received real-time updates on Zephyrian military preparations. Admiral, Captain Harper reported, they're mobilizing Battle Fleet 7, 12 heavy cruisers and support vessels. Rodriguez nodded calmly. Signal the Valkyrie to intercept at the solar system's edge. It's time to show them what 3 centuries of preparation can accomplish. Fleet Admiral Keithval commanded the most powerful battle group in the Zephyrian military. 12 heavy cruisers and their escort vessels represented enough firepower to destroy entire planetary defense systems. As his fleet approached the edge of Earth's solar system, he felt confident that these upstart humans would surrender once they saw true military might. Admiral, we're detecting an energy signature directly ahead, reported his sensor officer. On screen, Keithval ordered. The main display showed empty space, but the energy readings were massive. Suddenly, space itself seemed to fold and twist. The USS Valkyrie materialized out of nowhere, dwarfing every ship in the Zephyrian fleet. By the void, whispered Keithval's second-in-command. How large is that vessel? The human ship was easily 4 times longer than Keithval's flagship, and bristled with weapon systems he didn't recognize. But what disturbed him most was how quietly it had appeared. No ship should be able to approach without his sensors detecting it. Unknown vessel, you are trespassing in restricted space, Keithval transmitted. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. Captain Harper's voice came through the communication system, calm and professional. Admiral Keithval, I am Captain Lisa Harper of the United Colonies of Humanity. You are entering sovereign human territory without permission. Turn your fleet around and leave peacefully. Keithval's pride flared. No primitive species would dictate terms to him. Human vessel, you are outnumbered 12-1. Surrender now and you will be treated fairly. Admiral, I don't think you understand the situation, Harper replied. You're not outnumbered. You're outmatched. All ships battle formation, Keithval ordered. Target that human vessel and prepare to fire. His fleet spread into attack position, but something strange happened. The Valkyrie began to shimmer and split. What had been one massive ship became 3 identical vessels. Each one as large as the original. Sensor error, Kethaval muttered, but his instruments insisted all three ships were real. Admiral, his tactical officer reported with a shaking voice. We're detecting multiple targets. The readings are impossible. Fire all weapons, Kethaval commanded. 12 Zephyrian warships unleashed their most powerful weapons simultaneously. Energy beams, plasma torpedoes, and kinetic projectiles filled space between the two fleets. Any normal ship would have been vaporized instantly. The human weapons absorbed every shot. The Valkyrie's hull didn't even glow from the impact. Instead, something impossible happened. The ship began redirecting the absorbed energy back at the Zephyrian fleet, but not as weapons. The redirected power disabled their engines and weapon systems without harming the crew. Report, Kethaval shouted as his flagship went dead in space. All systems are offline, Admiral, his engineer replied in panic. But life support is still functioning. They're keeping us alive while disabling our ability to fight. The three images of the Valkyrie merged back into a single vessel, which moved closer to the helpless Zephyrian fleet. Small craft began launching from the human ship's docking bays. Admiral, we're being boarded, his security chief reported. By how many? Unclear, sir. Our internal sensors are malfunctioning. Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Torres led the boarding teams onto the Zephyrian ships. His soldiers wore armor that seemed to shift and adapt to their surroundings, changing color and texture to match the environment. Their weapons looked simple, but Kethaval's security teams discovered they couldn't be stopped. When Zephyrian soldiers fired plasma rifles, the human armor absorbed the energy. When they used sonic disruptors, the armor canceled the sound waves. When they tried physical attacks, the armor became harder than diamond. How are they doing this? Demanded Kethaval as human soldiers secured his bridge without firing a single shot. Colonel Torres removed his helmet, revealing a young face with calm eyes. Adaptive technology, Admiral. Our equipment learns from your attacks and develops countermeasures in real time. Impossible. No armor can adapt that quickly. You're thinking like someone stuck in old technology, Torres said pleasantly. We've had 3 centuries to develop new approaches to warfare. The human soldiers were remarkably gentle. They secured weapons and disabled key systems, but treated the Zephyrian crew with courtesy and respect. No one was harmed or threatened. What do you want? Kethaval asked. To send a message, Torres replied. Your council needs to understand that humanity is no longer defenseless. On the Valkyrie's bridge, Captain Harper was speaking with someone Kethaval couldn't see. Engineer Kate Sullivan worked at a control station that seemed to be manipulating space itself around the Zephyrian fleet. Admiral Kethaval, Harper's voice came through his ship's communication system. You're probably wondering how we disabled your entire fleet so easily. Your weapons are more advanced than our intelligence indicated, Kethaval admitted grudgingly. These weren't weapons, Harper corrected. What you experienced was a defensive demonstration. Our ship's hull can absorb and redirect energy as needed. We turned your own attacks into a harmless shutdown command for your systems. Engineer Sullivan looked up from her console. Captain, the space-time manipulation is ready for demonstration. Proceed, Harper ordered. Kethaval watched in amazement as his sensor displays showed the Valkyrie appearing in multiple locations simultaneously. The massive human ship seemed to be surrounding his fleet from all directions at once. How are you doing that? He whispered. Local space-time manipulation, Sullivan explained through the communication link. We can fold space to appear to be in several places at once. Your scout reports about human ships appearing throughout the galaxy were all accurate. We just weren't using multiple ships. The demonstration continued for an hour. The humans showed they could appear anywhere instantly, absorb any weapon fired at them, and disable enemy systems without causing casualties. It wasn't a battle. It was a technology showcase. Finally, Colonel Torres gathered his boarding teams and returned to the Valkyrie. As the human soldiers left, all the Zephyrian systems came back online. Admiral, Harper transmitted, your fleet is fully operational again. We've made no permanent modifications to your ships. Kethaval checked his instruments. Everything worked perfectly, as if the shutdown had never happened. We're returning you to Zephyrian space with a message for your council, Harper continued. Humanity doesn't want war. We want recognition and respect, but we will defend ourselves if necessary. What if the council sends a larger fleet? Kethaval asked. Then they'll discover that size doesn't matter when facing superior technology, Harper replied. Admiral, we've been watching galactic politics for 3 centuries. We know the Council believes in strength through numbers. Today you learned that's an outdated concept. As the Zephyrian fleet limped back to Council space, Kethval composed his report with shaking hands. His 12 warships had been disabled by a single human vessel, without suffering a single casualty. The humans had demonstrated technology that made the most advanced Zephyrian systems look primitive. But what disturbed him most was the restraint they had shown. They could have destroyed his entire fleet easily, but chose not to. That suggested a level of confidence and control that was more frightening than any weapon. Admiral, his communication officer reported, we're receiving a priority transmission from High Counselor Vexithara. Admiral Kethval. Vexithara's voice crackled through subspace. Report your status immediately. High Counselor, the human claims appear to be accurate, Kethval said carefully. They possess technology far beyond our current understanding. The silence that followed lasted for several minutes. Return to base immediately, Vexithara finally ordered. We need to reassess our approach to this situation. As his fleet traveled back to Zephyrian space, Kethval couldn't stop thinking about the calm professionalism of the human soldiers. They had acted like peacekeepers, not conquerors. That worried him more than aggressive behavior would have. Species that attacked out of anger or fear could be understood and countered. But humans who possessed overwhelming power and chose to use it gently were something entirely new in galactic politics. The galaxy was about to change, and Kethval wasn't sure anyone was ready for what that meant. 3 months after the incident with Admiral Kethval's fleet, the galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. The Zephyrian Council's authority was crumbling as member species questioned whether their protectors could actually protect them from this new human threat. President Alex Carter stood on the bridge of the Valkyrie as it approached the Council's capital world. He was a man in his 60s with silver hair and the calm confidence that came from leading humanity through its greatest transition in centuries. Helen, are we ready for the broadcast? Carter asked. All communication networks are prepared, Mr. President, the AI replied. We can reach every inhabited world in the galaxy simultaneously. Admiral Rodriguez, fleet status? All 12 supercarriers are in position throughout Zephyrian space, Rodriguez reported. The demonstration is ready on your command. Carter nodded and activated the galaxy-wide transmission. His image appeared on screens and displays across hundreds of worlds, speaking to billions of beings who had never seen a living human. Citizens of the galaxy, Carter began. I am President Alex Carter, elected leader of the United Colonies of Humanity. For 3 centuries you have believed our species extinct. Today I address you to explain why we chose to hide and why we now choose to reveal ourselves. On the Council's capital world, High Counselor Vexithara watched the transmission with growing dread. The human ship above their planet was visible even in daylight, a massive shadow that dwarfed their most powerful vessels. When alien fleets first approached our world, Carter continued, we faced a choice: fight with primitive weapons and die, or disappear and prepare for a better future. We chose preparation. The transmission showed images of human colonies throughout the outer solar system, massive space habitats supporting millions of people, and technological marvels that made Zephyrian science look ancient. We have watched galactic civilization for 3 centuries. We have seen the good and the bad. The Zephyrian Council has brought order to chaos, but that order comes at a terrible price. Species live in fear. Resources are extracted without consent. Military might determines who has rights and who does not. Dr. Amy Foster appeared on screen beside Carter, displaying holographic models of advanced medical equipment. Today, we offer the galaxy something better, Carter said. These medical technologies can cure diseases that have plagued your worlds for millennia. We can heal genetic disorders, reverse aging, and repair injuries that your doctors consider impossible. The hologram showed before and after images of patients treated with human medical technology. Beings with terminal illnesses restored to perfect health, genetic defects corrected, wounded soldiers completely healed. This is just the beginning, Foster explained. Human science has developed solutions to problems your civilizations have accepted as unsolvable. Engineer Kate Sullivan took over the presentation, showing terraforming technologies that could make dead worlds bloom with life. We can restore damaged ecosystems without displacing existing species, Sullivan demonstrated through detailed holographic displays. Dead worlds can become gardens. Polluted atmospheres can be cleaned. Dying stars can be stabilized. Carter returned to address the galaxy directly. We offer these gifts freely to any civilization that embraces peace and cooperation. But we will not tolerate the oppression we have witnessed. Ambassador Rachel Kent stepped forward, her diplomatic credentials impressive even by galactic standards. The age of rule through fear is ending, Kent announced. Humanity offers partnership to species that choose cooperation over conquest. But species that prey upon others will find themselves facing human intervention. High Counselor Vexithera could no longer contain herself. She activated the Council's emergency override to interrupt the human transmission. "Human President?" she snarled. "You cannot simply dictate new terms to galactic civilization. The Council has maintained order for over a millennium." Carter's expression remained calm. "High Counselor, your order has been built on the subjugation of weaker species. That era is now over. You have one ship and make impossible claims about your capabilities," Vexthera replied. "The Council controls 17 star systems and commands thousands of vessels." "Admiral Rodriguez," Carter said quietly. On cue, space around every major Zephyrian world began to shimmer. One by one, massive human supercarriers decloaked throughout the galaxy. 12 vessels, each one larger than any ship ever built, appeared simultaneously in dozens of star systems. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as humanity revealed the true scope of their hidden civilization. Ships that had been traveling invisibly between stars for decades suddenly became visible, demonstrating a level of technological sophistication that made every other species feel primitive. "High Counselor," Carter said gently, "you're looking at 12 supercarriers and their support fleets. Each supercarrier houses 1 million people and carries enough firepower to sterilize a planet. But more importantly, each one carries the tools to heal worlds and help civilizations grow." Counselor Thesara spoke from her water chamber, her voice shaking. "What do you want from us?" "We want you to choose," Carter replied. "You can continue trying to rule through force, in which case you'll discover that humans have become very good at protecting the innocent. Or you can join us in building something better." Dr. Foster reappeared on screen. "Our medical technology is available immediately to any species that needs it. Our terraforming capabilities are offered freely to worlds that require environmental restoration. Our military protection," added Colonel Torres, now visible in his adaptive armor, "is available to any species threatened by aggressors." The transmission showed real-time feeds from human ships throughout the galaxy. Species that had been oppressed by Zephyrian expansion policies were already receiving aid. Worlds that had been strip-mined were being restored. Civilizations that had lived in fear were being offered protection. "The choice is simple," Carter concluded. "Cooperation or irrelevance, partnership or isolation. We prefer to work together, but we're prepared to work alone if necessary." High Counselor Vexithara realized her authority was evaporating in real time. Across the galaxy, member species were already reaching out to the humans, seeking aid and protection that the Council had never offered. "This is not over," she transmitted to Carter. "Yes, it is," Carter replied sadly. "High Counselor, your empire was built on fear and maintained through force. Humanity offers something your people have never experienced: genuine partnership between equals." The transmission ended, but the impact continued. Within hours, 7 Zephyrian member species had formally requested human protection. Within days, the Council's military commanders were reporting mass defections as species realized they no longer needed to fear Zephyrian retaliation. On the Valkyrie, Admiral Rodriguez reviewed the reports with satisfaction. "Admiral," Captain Harper reported, "we're receiving thousands of requests for aid from across the galaxy. Medical emergencies, environmental disasters, defensive partnerships. Deploy our support fleets as needed," Rodriguez ordered, "and maintain communication with any species that wants to talk." President Carter stood at the observation deck, watching as human ships began their new mission across the galaxy. After 3 centuries of hiding, humanity was finally free to help other species openly. "Helen, what's your analysis of galactic response?" Carter asked. "Overwhelmingly positive, Mr. President," the AI replied. 87% of contacted species have expressed interest in human partnership. The remaining 13% are either affiliated with aggressive civilizations or are requesting time to evaluate the situation. Carter smiled. And the Zephyrian Council? High Counselor Vexathera has locked down Council communications and is attempting to organize military resistance. However, most member species are ignoring her orders and establishing direct diplomatic contact with human representatives. Through the observation deck's transparent walls, Carter could see Earth in the distance, blue and green and beautiful. After 300 years of exile, humanity was coming home. But more importantly, they were helping to create a galaxy where other species could have homes worth protecting. The age of empires built on fear was ending. The age of cooperation between equals was just beginning, and humanity, hidden for so long, would make sure it started right.